Hey everyone, it is Dani'i and welcome to this update video. I hope that you guys are doing really great, and I especially hope that the persons being affected by BRET are doing okay right now. So you can let me know in the comments how you guys are doing, as well as the conditions within their area. And so we'll be taking a look at the latest for the cyclone, as well as a newly formed tropical storm Cindy, which is expected to intensify as we're going to be progressing into the next couple of days. And what are the chances that it could bring any impacts whatsoever to parts of the northeastern Caribbean? So we're going to be taking a look at that, along with an update generally for the Caribbean region. And so before I go into details, please do subscribe if you haven't yet done so, and tap the bell so that you never miss an important update. And so taking a look at the satellite imagery of parts of the Western Atlantic, here we can see that BRET is looking pretty disheveled. There is Cindy behind it, and so we'll be taking a look at both of these in more details very soon. But looking across the rest of the area and what is happening, we see lots of cloud cover across sections of the Bahamas, going to Cuba, sections of the Cayman Islands, Jamaica, and even some parts of Hispaniola. And going to Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, and sections of the Leeward Islands, we're not seeing where too much is happening right now. And then over in the vicinity of Central America, we can see here that there are lots of showers and thunderstorms across some areas, all the way from the Yucatan coming to Panama, and from parts of northern South America. A similar story, some isolated shower and thunderstorm activity this morning. Things remaining dry and sunny for the ABC Islands as we progress into today. And so now let's go ahead and take a closer look at our tropical cyclones. So there we have BRET, and we can see that there is a lot of activity still outside of the Caribbean. Now that is actually going to be eventually making its way in. So a lot of rainfall is expected along the various islands being impacted by BRET. And behind it, there we have Cindy, looking like a pretty healthy and symmetrical cyclone that is going to be strengthened. It has already begun strengthening, but it should continue to do so for a while before the wind shear inhibits any further intensification. And so as we go on to the latest cone forecast now from the National Hurricane Center, that hurricane watch was discontinued, and as of this morning, the tropical storm watch in effect for Dominica has also been discontinued. Now why, when we see a lot of activity still out there? Well, that tropical storm force wind field is no longer really going to be affecting these areas, even though the rainfall is likely to persist. And the tropical storm watch, though it remains in effect for Martinique, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines. Now, BRET is going to be continuing westward as we progress into this weekend and into the early part of next week. Now, that wind shear is expected to really just tear what is left of it apart, and eventually it is likely to dissipate, maybe become an open trough as we're going to be heading into later on Sunday or going into Mondays. And now we're taking a look at the GFS map here of the wind shear. Now where we see more of those oranges and reds, that is where we have that stronger wind shear. Now as we're going to be heading into later this morning, this is what the GFS is forecasting. So we see these arrows also showing the direction from which the wind is blowing. So it's coming in from the west, and it is in the upper part of the atmosphere. Now we can see that it is just coming in and just going to be ripping BRET apart. And let's briefly go on to the shortwave infrared satellite imagery. Here we can see that the center is being exposed, so the wind shear is just blowing off all that activity away from that low level center of circulation, and hence the reason BRET is looking so lopsided and so disheveled. So the wind shear has been taking its toll, and also the dry air that is in the area has infiltrated some of that activity. However, again, that warning, that tropical storm warning, is still in effect for some areas. The possibility still exists for a lot of heavy rainfall across some of the islands, and that could induce some flooding. Please stay safe as you're going to be heading throughout today. Eventually, as we head into the early part of next week, BRET is likely to pass well to the south of Jamaica, maybe as a depression or as a remnant low. So impacts or any major impacts are unlikely in Jamaica at that time. And so now let's go ahead and talk about Cindy. So Cindy currently has maximum sustained winds of 45 miles per hour, and it is accelerating to the west northwest at 15 miles per hour now. Had it not developed into a tropical storm, this cone would have been much closer to the Caribbean, but we see just how narrow the cone is, especially for the first 3 days or so. But as we're going to be heading further out in time, there is more uncertainty. But for the most part, NHC has been keeping this away from the Caribbean. However, this is to track the center of the storm, not the entire thing. So impacts could be possible. However, that wind shear is going to be kicking up as we're going to be heading into around late Sunday, going into Monday. And as a result of that, a lot of that activity is likely to be displaced to the east of the center of the system, keeping it away from the Leeward Islands. So let's see what's going to be happening with this. But as of now, NHC isn't showing that this is going to be bringing any major impacts to the Caribbean, and I'm not expecting any major impacts. And as we go on to the model track guidance here, we can see that models are pretty much in agreement for the most part. Of course, they kind of disagree as we head further out in time, but that is expected. But for now, they're in that agreement about Cindy continuing on that track. And even for the intensity guidance here, we can see that most models are expecting this to peak at a tropical storm. And notice that they all show sort of a dip in that intensity, indicating that wind shear that is likely going to be inducing some weakening. So let's see what's going to be happening with Cindy. Hopefully it is actually going to be a fish storm, but anything can happen, anything can change. And then finally, I want to take you guys to the coast of Africa. Here we have a tropical wave in the area. We see some activity along it. And what are the odds of it developing? Well, models are not really showing much. They're not expecting any imminent development for the next week or so. But I do want to point out what is highlighted on the Climate Prediction Center's Global Tropics Hazards Outlook map. So we're focusing on week 2, where we see June 28th to July 4, and there we can see that area highlighted across sections of the Western Main Development Region in red. Now that is showing a probability of tropical cyclone formation, and where we see the greens indicate above average rainfall probability. So between this time frame here within this week, this is quite interesting. So let's see if something will actually develop, but as of now, models are saying no, there's not going to be anything. So let's wait and see what is going to be happening within that time frame. And of course, I'm here to keep you guys posted. And we are now 3 names into this hurricane season. So the next storm that develops will acquire the name Dawn, which is the 4th name to be used for a tropical cyclone this year. So let us see if that is going to be happening as we head into the early part of July. Late June going to the early part of July is what the Climate Prediction Center has highlighted. Again, nothing new being shown by majority of the models, so I'll continue to keep you guys posted. And so if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments. I will respond as best and as soon as I can. And remember to always be weatherwise.